Is this happening to you? Don't worry, I've got ya. Alright, so we want to have better defense. We want to be able to defend against anything. And so I have a few tips that I'm going to put throughout this video that will help you be able to get better at defense in this game. But I'm going to start off with the most simple one, and that literally is just block. Literally just block. Blocking, I know it sounds like a really stupid suggestion, but literally just blocking and getting more comfortable with being able to block things can literally give you a better understanding of when you may or may not need to press items. So obviously this Gita there has just ended with a super. This isn't traditionally going to happen very often, but it's just an example of, like, if you just sit there and wait, eventually your opponent is going to try something unsafe, and then that will be when you need to strike. Just getting used to being able to block in the first place really should just be your, like, your bread and butter, I should say. Like, if you're not comfortable with blocking, you always feel like you need to brave counter, invincible reversal, super, jump, mash. Just literally block. Start by learning how to block, and I know it sounds silly, but trust me, if you can get, like, just making the decision to block 90% of the time is a good idea. So that's literally my first tip, is just literally how to block. And I'll get into, like, different techniques of blocking now. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to cover is use the block button. Using the block button can literally save you in so many different scenarios where in other games you don't have that advantage. For example, cross-ups is one of the main ones. If your opponent's going to cross you up and you're using the block button, you don't have to worry about switching guard because your block button will do that for you. See, there are some advantages to not using the block button, which I'll explain in a bit. But the main thing you want to be doing most of the time is get used to using the block button. Like, for example, if you look at a situation like this. If I didn't block that, that's a free combo for the Gita player. If I didn't hold the button, sorry. If I hold the button, instantly. And then that will get into my next point, which I'm going to cover, which is about how holding the guard button will allow you to use evade and crossovers. Like, that's literally two of your defensive mechanics in the game. You don't get access to that when you're holding black to block. You have to go into the guard button. So do this. You've instantly become a lot better at dealing with, like, one, you've dealt with a cross up, and two, you're dealing with being able to deal with the guard crush. Going from, like, back to block and then pressing the guard button to react to a guard crush is significantly harder than holding the guard button and then actually reacting to it at all. Obviously, guard crush is quite slow, so you can tag it with a button, so that is also an option, but sometimes you might even be too far away. I've been in situations where people have hit me quite far with a guard crush because it hits quite far and my button's missed. But obviously, if you've done that with the guard button, that wouldn't be an issue because the evade is obviously the answer. It's actually quite generous as well, how you can do it. It seems quite hard to react to at first, but, like, once you go in the lab and train against it, it really is not that bad. I also wanted to mention there are some characters in this game who have guard crush moves baked into their toolkit, unlike just being a raging strike boot. I'll show you two examples. The first one is Beelzebub. This one is a bit of a pain. I know a lot of people can get, like, caught by this. Basically, the best way I suggest about dealing with this, obviously a little quick Beelzebub matchup knowledge. If he has 50 meter, you should expect this. So don't go in the air because this move will get you as well. But on the ground, you can use evade to deal with it. And that's how you deal with the move. He has a way to make it unblockable. Now, the way it works is, like, depending on where you are on the screen after he throws the projectile, he'll have more frame advantage. So if he does this up in your face, you can still evade it. So you can still escape that way. And even about here, sometimes it's not too bad. Yeah, but if he does it full screen, and you block this full screen, there's no escape. So the way you kind of deal with this, and it can be done at any range, it probably is more preferable to do this at any range, but we'll just do it here because that's where it's unblockable. If he does it, you literally just need to not do that. You need to time your evades perfectly. There, so that's how you do it. You literally just have to time your evade exceptionally well. Sometimes it's quite hard to do. But yeah, that is a way to deal with his guard crush, just using the evade button. So I'll show another example now of another character who has a move similar to this. And the second example I'm going to give you is Siegfried. Siegfried has an unblockable move also that guard crushes. This is really good for Siegfried to close out rounds. This one's a little bit easier to deal with than Beelzebub's, I think anyway, because it literally is just evade. There is no unblockable scenario that I can figure out, but yeah. So you literally just evade. You time your evade, get the punish, and it's that simple. But yeah, so Siegfried is another example of a character who has an unblockable move, which is best beaten by evade. Maybe you could cross over in this situation. Yeah, you can, but I'd prioritize evade more than anything, just because of its like, you know, projectile. Yeah, it's like strike capability protection. Like this move's like really good for dealing with projectiles. I'll get into like evade and crossover in a bit, but like I'd prioritize using evade for most of these situations. Mainly because it keeps you in one position. If you're doing this and you're wrong, you're active for like quite long, and the opponent can catch you quite quickly. So yeah, using evade against unblockable moves is the answer. Pros quite extensively on another guide, which I'll put on the screen now, and you can go watch it if you want to get a more in-depth look at how to bait and how to deal with kind of throws if you like. But I will just recap it quickly in this one. One of the main points I had. When you're dealing with throws, you should really be prioritizing throwing with the actual throw button outside of throw teching, because obviously if you watch the guide you'll see when someone comes in to throw, if you tech with a light attack you'll end up on your backside, which leaves you at a disadvantage and gives the opponent plus frames. So you should really be trying to tech with your throw button, which is, I use square and triangle. You can use the throw button specifically. I just find it easier. I use like a hitbox style controller, so I prefer very much to try and do it that way. That way I have more space around. But anyway, that's besides the point. The point is, using this is just a much better thing. So get used to using the throw button. Now it should also be noted, from guard, this is another reason about guard, from guard, obviously you can go block, low, just covering the guard again. You can also go throw straight from guard. You don't have to like let go of the guard button and throw. So it is also like to be noted, like you don't have to, you're not rigid and stuck in this position. You can also mash out of guard button as well, which is another point I didn't cover in the guard button section. So you can do everything you need. I think the only thing you can't do is jump. Yeah, you have to let go to jump, that's it. So yeah, but anyway, back to my point about throws. Literally just learn to tech with the throw button. Go online, and when you think someone's going to throw you, just use the throw button, alright? There are times when you want to be using this. This is like, I'd say last resort, personally, when you want to tech with a button. But, so you're just like reacting to a throw, rather than being ready for it. But I would just learn, practice. I went from the beginning of the game when I was teching with lights, and then I realised that that was not a good idea. And then going online and just practicing. I'll go in casual matches, just practice teching with the throw buttons, and instantly, I wouldn't say instantly, but like within a good amount of time, within like a day, I was already using it, and now I tend to use this pretty much all the time now. So yeah, use throw button. That is my main technique with throw. And continuing with throws, here's the technique I'll describe, which is literally just take the throw. So sometimes when you have a life lead specifically, and you're in a situation where you're blocking in the corner, sometimes the best thing to do is not even try and mash out, and if they throw you, don't worry too much, because you're literally just taking like maybe about 10% of your health bar. Obviously, like if you're near the end of your health bar, you want to kind of like, you know, it's guess for games, so that's completely different, you know, but sometimes just taking a throw is like, you know, it really isn't that big of a deal, and I'll give you a good comparison as to why now. So a reason you'd want to take a throw would literally just be this. Now, compare that situation there to the one where we took the throw. We've just taken just under 40% of our health bar because we tried to mash out of a situation where if we just taken the throw it would be 10%. We've also lost 2 bravery points, which means we're now on a health debuff. This is why sometimes this can turn the tide of a game just because you tried to throw, when sometimes it would just be a good idea to block or to take the throw. So this is why in some situations, if an opponent is throwing you, sometimes they might throw you 2 times, right? Sometimes they might throw you 3 times. You know what? Sometimes they might just throw you to death. Like, it has happened to me before. That's when you're like getting used to this kind of stuff. But like knowing when to like press a button after like is paramount. You know, sometimes people might even go, they might throw you once and then they might try strike again, or they might try throw you twice and then strike. It's kind of like understanding what the opponent does and stuff like that. Over time, you'll be able to get that kind of experience and understand it. But at the start, if you understand that taking a throw is, you know, an important aspect of like defense, which like sounds redundant because you're not actually defending yourself, you're letting yourself get hit. It literally can help you in situations like where you're getting a massive trade-off. Because if you're wrong, you could literally take like 50% and then lose 2 bravery points in this situation. So take the throw. Sometimes, usually when you have more health than the opponent, or it's not going to kill you, then yeah, do that. Okay, I just thought of this while I was doing the last bit, which kind of reminded me about life lead and stuff like that. This isn't necessarily like full-on defense and stuff like that, but it kind of the aspect is like you're going into a more defensive state, and this happens to so many people. I see so many people lose this way. You know what? Even they're at 50% health now. It'd probably be a better example to put them at 1% health. When someone when you have a life lead over someone, you shouldn't be taking the initiative and going towards them. You should be waiting back and playing more defensively. Make them make the move towards you. If in this situation you have Settle here, you have full health, they have half health, why would you move in on them? Literally just hang back and play very defensively. Make them come to you, because if you're trying to get in on them to finish them off, you're more likely to get blown up and make mistakes because they are playing more defensive to defend themselves from their health stuff. And you know what? Sometimes the match might drag out a little bit. It might be like 30 seconds left on the clock. They might not even attempt to come in. But you know what? You've won the match, you know? So don't worry about it. But eventually a lot of opponents get impatient and they'll try getting on you. So it's a quick tip. Not fully on defense, but it kind of plays into the defense aspect of the game. You have a life lead, do not move in on the opponent. Just hang back, make them make the mistake, right? There is a clock, it's not an infinite time, it will run out eventually. If they don't want to engage with you, you've already won the match at that point. So do that. Alright, so why wouldn't you want to use the guard button? Now, there's a technique in the game called Just Defend, and essentially the way that works is the minute that you block by tapping the block button as the attack comes in to hit you, you'll get a Just Defend, and you can be this can be recognized when your character glows white, like that. And now in other games like Guilty Gear, for example, this is much harder to perform. I think there's a 2-frame window in Guilty Gear, but in this game it's 8 frames window, so it's much more generous, but consequently the move isn't as good as it is in Guilty Gear. So using this move, I'd say it's more like situational. So what it does is when you block normally, you obviously get you know, you watch your like gauge up there, you'll get a Skybound Arc gauge, but by using Just Defend, you get a little bit more. Now, I don't know if you noticed, it's not a hell of a lot more. And so I got 10. 10's the max I can get out of that specific string I got there. Now, it doesn't change the frame advantage at all. It doesn't hold the opponent closer. It doesn't do anything like... It literally just gives you Skybound Art meter. It just gives you meter. And I'd say if you're in a situation where, I don't know, you have 40% and you need to build it to 50 and you're very good at it, then that'll be a time to use it. But or if you are near 100 and you want to get the Skybound Art Super, then that's what it'd be kind of used for. It's like this, a lot more generous in this game, and there's no real downside to using it, to be quite honest with you, because even if you like mistime it, you're still blocking. So it is worth to try and get used to, but I wouldn't say it's a necessary requirement. You can do it with the guard button, but the reason why it's much harder is because you have to time the guard button. You have to time the... Yeah, you have to time the guard button with the press. As you can see, I keep getting evade. Like, the timing is like quite... So you probably do this, and then do it for the last thing. But yeah, using the guard button with it is... I'm Neo now. Yeah, using the guard button with just defend is just a lot more tricky. So if you're going to try just defend, literally just do back to block and time your block presses with the moves and stuff like that. So I'd say, yeah, if you want to do it, go in training mode and learn to practice. But I barely ever use it personally. You build meter so quick in this game. It's a nice feature. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to go over that will really help your defense is understanding frame data. In my mashing guide, which I just released, I spoke about frame data a little bit and how it's important to kind of like understand when your opponent's plus. But understanding when your opponent's minus is really good for like dealing with being when to punish and stuff like that, because obviously every character has different frame data and stuff. I'll use Jita as an example because I think she's quite a good example. Her Vorpal Blade Light ends, it's -5. If she doesn't do the follow-up, she's -5 on block. Now everything in the game that is -5 can be punished with a 5-frame normal. Most characters have a close light that's 5 frames, Gran does for example. But if you've noticed, in this situation, Gran isn't anywhere near Gia. So she's technically safe in this situation. There might be a character in the game with a 5-frame far light. If they are, I don't know which one, I don't know which character has a 5-frame 5 light. 5L, but it might be in the game. I haven't had time to go through all of the characters yet and figure it out, but if anyone has a 5-frame 5L, they'll punish that. But Jita is technically safe. Now, if Jita were to follow up, she's -8. So now that completely changes the situation. Now, the follow-up Jita has leaves a frame trap, so that goes over another thing about dealing with mashing and stuff like that in my last video. However, she's now -8, which means that you can punish her for doing this. So I know that Gran's crouching M is a 7-frame button, and I know that Jita's thing, Vorpal Blade Light follow-up ends in 8. So knowing that I can counter her with a 7-frame normal after that makes the interaction much better. I also know in that situation that once Jita has done her Vorpal Blade follow-up, there's nothing else she can do. She's fully committed now to that. This is why Jita's pretty good, is because she can stop here. Now, if you want to go over her medium version, this one, a bit slower, so if she does this and then does her medium version, she's going to counter hit you. But on block, I don't know if you saw, it is -4. Now in this situation, even if there was a character in the game that has a far L that's 5 frames, no one's punishing Jita at this point. She's completely safe. There's nothing, anything that's 4 frames, as long as they're not in your face, can't be punished, because throws in this game come out in 4 frames. So if she's in your face, then you can get a punish on her. But everything else, no strike in the game can hit her. And that's this is also kind of the same with this button as well. If she does the follow-up, it's -8, so it's the same situation. And then with this one as well, their EX version, it's -8 no matter what. On all 3 follow-ups, you can punish Jita. So learning literally how to punish a character's options is paramount to being able to better to defend and when to know when to press a button. So I would advise anyone who wants to get into like learning more about the frame data in the game, I'd say personally stick with popular characters. Any character you see a lot, like Nier, Siegfried, Namaya, you see Namaya all the time. Prioritize learning their frame data over everyone else's, and then you'll know like how to kind of like punish them in that situation, you know. And I'd say focus on special moves. Don't focus so much on, oh, this is 0 or this is 3 or whatever, because like a lot of these moves, especially like, they can counter into stuff and stuff like that. So there's no point really knowing how to punish Jita's triple attack combo, because like she can just go into the blooming Vorpal Blade straight after. There's no point in doing that. So just focus on special moves when you're learning how to punish certain things. And also go in. Also go in and learn what's plus. I was saying this about last time. So this is the 7. This is 7. This is 2. So her enhanced version is 2. But Jita has a special example. She can charge her moves and change the frame data. So it's +8 that time. So just understanding the frame data of certain characters and their moves and stuff like that can really just make a massive difference, you know. But yeah, that's my kind of like, I'll probably do a bigger video on frame data in the future, kind of going over every little aspect of it. But on defense, if you are struggling with a character, say a good example I would say is like, say you were getting your ass handed to you by a Levita, and the Levita was absolutely kicking your backside. You're like, oh, I can't beat this Levita player, right? After you finish the match, go into training mode, get Levita, and find out what her special moves are, find out how to punish her on those sort of things. And then the next time you come against her, it won't feel so bad because you'll have a little bit of knowledge. It might not be a lot, you know, and you might have to do a few more games and practice sessions to kind of get to it, but get a base understanding of how to figure it out is a good idea. And to be honest with you, like, it comes across less tedious that way, because I've tried in the past to go over every single aspect of frame data of every character in the game, and none of it sticks, because it's just too much information to take it at once. But if you, say lose to a certain character, go in the training mode, figure out why you were losing, watch your replays, and then you'll end the frame data on that. That's a bit of an exaggeration trip there, but the last thing I'll say about this frame data is there's a website which I'll link in the description called Dustloop. If anyone doesn't know about this, and it literally has most of Arxis' games on there, and I think Tekken's 8's on there now for some reason. But anyway, they basically will have all the information and relevant stuff that you'll need about certain characters or properties and stuff. It'll tell you if a move is invincible, armored. But I'll link that down below. But if you need, like, it's like a dictionary or whatever. For just fighting games, Arxis fighting games in general. Everything is listed there, so I'll put that in the description, but it's called Dustloop. But that's it for frame data. Okay, so the next aspect I'm going to be going over, I did do a guide looking in depth on how to deal with this move, but this move is the best defensive move in the entire game. You should be using it as much as you can. Don't abusing it, just using it. And that's Brave Counter. Now, when you're using Brave Counter, you really want to be prioritizing trying to do it at the right time so you can get a hard knockdown. If you don't do it at the right time, then the opponent will just tech out. So it's not a waste, it still gets them off you, but they're not completely stopped. But yeah, so you should be using Brave Counter. And I think ideally, you should be I'd say use at least, you always use at least one around, like, just to get the opponent off you and stuff like that. I think this move is, if anything, people talk about 6-6L, but I think this is one of the main things in the game that needs to get changed. Like, I've read on about it in my guide, which I'll link above, but the fact of the matter that you can literally you can block this move and the opponent still plus is crazy. But anyway, that's besides the point. You should be using this move. This move is amazing on defense, so don't neglect using Brave Counter. There's not much more I need to say about it. It's just that strong. There is literally no downsides to using this move other than the fact you're using your Brave points. And don't abuse it, obviously, because once you run out, you'll be in a lot worse situation. But using one a game, or if he's going to win the game, then use it. Like, because I've had situations where I've won the game literally just off doing it, but use Brave Counter. The thing I'm going to cover is the universal mechanic for every character, which is evade and crossover. These moves have different properties and stuff like that. So the evade is completely immune for 25 frames, strike and projectiles. So the way you beat it is by throwing it and stuff like that. It's obviously really good for dealing with projectiles. And crossover, which is exactly the same as the other one. It's just the forward input, so guard block forward, the other one's guard block back. It's 29 frames each. Active, so if you whiff it, and the opponent expects you're going to die. So when you're going forward, the crossover is only immune to projectiles, but below the knees, it is not immune to anything. So you can be kicked out of this. There's something to bear in mind. I think that the evade is much better. Sometimes if you have an opponent who is very projectile happy, I just stand back, let them do it. Sometimes, and then when you feel comfortable, move in, maybe go for a strike, or just jump over and attack. So yeah, I think you should really be using evade more in the neutral and stuff. I would say for a crossover, if you want to get through projectiles, maybe just do it twice to your hair. because this is a good jumping range as well. The opponent might expect a crossover at this point, and they'll try bait you. So you can either like DP or get him with your anti-air combo or something like that. So I think even just evading at this distance is a much better idea. So yeah, you should really be using evade. Also, evade's really good. I guess kind of like an anti-counter poke. I've seen a lot of people do this, and I've started to try and do it now. But basically, if you do like you stick out your button, and the opponent's going to counter poke, you can like do an see if I can do it. You can do an evade, and you can kind of like beat stay plus and stuff like that. But yeah, so evade and crossover, both very handy moves. I just think evade's a little bit better. The final thing I'm going to kind of mention in this guide before I kind of do a little like conclusive wrap up of it is be prepared for anti-airs and make sure you know your anti-air combos. I think I've said this in other guides before, but making sure you know when you need to anti-air and how to anti-air like can really force your opponent to stay on the ground. It's another aspect of the defense of the game. If people can like just jump in on you, they're just going to get in you for free. So this is a very basic anti-air, like I really don't know any grand anti-airs, and I completely messed up as well. It just shows the point. But the point is, wherever your main character is, learn a anti-air that will be able to deal with people jumping in on you, so it can deter them from jumping in on you. It is a very important aspect on defense, because and obviously, also, if you just want to like just use anti-air by using the DP, so that's okay. It's another option. It's air unblockable. I just think it's better to kind of get better at doing the standard anti-air because you get more damage off of it. So yeah, learn your anti-airs. So, how could we put this all into practice? This is the easiest part, I'd say. Once you've kind of got a grasp of what kind of options you have, I think one thing you should all do is go into casual matches and go in with the intent to absolutely just defend. Don't try and win. Don't go into casual match and be like, I'm going to win. You know, your goal in casual match should be, I'm here to defend. And I've even had matches when I was first learning how to defend, like when I first started playing fighting games, and I was like really uncomfortable with it and stuff like that. I would go into a casual match and I would sometimes just sit there and block for the entire match. Like, I apologise to all those opponents, I did that too, but I had to do it because I set up the bot and I had the bot do a load of stuff, but it just didn't feel intuitive enough. It didn't feel like I was learning anything. It just felt very robotic. So to get the best kind of outcome, you kind of really want to go in and just learn how to defend. Go on casual matches. Your goal is to defend, not to win. So do that, and that really is like the best way you can kind of put this all into practice. Like, if you prefer to set up recordings and practice against all the outcomes and nuances, then you can. I personally learn better from being in the situation and being able to like act on it, and then go in the training mode and work on little goals and stuff like that. But my advice is go into casual mode. Don't have the intent of winning, just have the intent of defending. That's it for this guide. Start using these techniques and you'll get better at defense, I guarantee it. Defense is a fundamental aspect of any fighting game, and getting better at it will really improve your game. Learning how to be patient is the key to winning these games, I think. If you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, as it will help the YouTube algorithm get this video to other people. Also, if you feel like supporting the channel, please subscribe. This way you won't miss any future content I make. Yeah, take care, swines.